What's up, everybody? It's me, San Martin, and guess what? I am in the downtown office with this man, and you're going to want to hang out for this interview because it is the best. With that being said, let me go ahead and get this started, and we're just going to get started like this. Welcome to the 863 Morning Show with your host, San Martin Rodriguez and Eric Knight. Good morning. Eric won't be joining us this morning because he stepped in and we kicked Eric out. Just kidding. Eric will be back in tomorrow to go ahead and be with us and talk about all the cool things that are happening in our community. But today we're going to dedicate our morning show to go ahead and talk to our mayor, Phil Goode. With that being said, my friend, I don't think you need an introduction, but tell everybody who you are and what makes you famous.
Famous? I don't know about famous, but I am the current mayor of Prescott. Actually, it's almost to the day that I was officially sworn in. I think it was around the 25th or 26th of November last year. So even though I prevailed in the primary election in August and had a substantial margin of victory, I wasn't officially sworn in until November. But we started working on a lot of programs and issues that I ran on almost immediately after I won the primary election in August. So that makes me we have a 2-year term here in the city of Prescott, as opposed to some of the other municipalities. So our council runs for 4 years, but the mayor is a 2-year term. So that's a little challenging sometimes when you're dealing with some of the bigger issues that I ran on and we're in the process of getting adopted. It's the old saying that it's kind of like making sausage. It's kind of ugly as you put the thing together, but when you finally finish it up, it looks pretty good. So
That's amazing.
We'll have that condition after we finish up some of these bigger issues. Of course, the biggest one that I started with was getting the reestablishing the water policy that we had prior to 2019 so that we could allocate water deliberately to developments, whether they were residential or non-residential developments. And that was necessary because at the time we were growing so rapidly that we were outstripping our ability to provide public services into those new neighborhoods that were being built. And I mean, being able to have equivalent response time for police calls, fire calls, emergency medical services, ambulance calls, and then just providing more extended public services like trash collection and things like that. So if you grow too fast, you have an obligation to these new residents, just like old residents, to be able to respond quickly in an emergency and be able to provide those services. So by using the water policy to have a more deliberate way of managing that growth, then we're able to provide those services to the new residents in an equivalent manner.
Well, this is pretty insane. I mean, to hear all of the things that you were trying to, initiate here locally in Prescott because of the, obviously the growth and just what's going on. I mean, it adapts to kind of like where you have been and where you came from. And the reason why we are here together today is because we want to talk about not the past, but the past is kind of what made you who you are today. And so today is literally
true for everyone.
Yes, and today is to talk about you and what you have done for our country and also for the growth of yourself. Obviously, Veterans Day is coming up on Friday. We're going to have an amazing parade that's going to honor all the veterans out there. But today is to honor you. And my question is, all the things that you have done in your life that has, once again, brought you to who you are today and what makes you tick. So tell a little bit about what you did for the services. I have a couple of things in the description right now in the box. So if everybody wants to go back and check that out, that's pretty awesome. But tell everybody a little bit about what you have accomplished thus far. I mean, as far as like, going to war and stuff like that.
Well, I come from a kind of an indirect military family. My father flew in the Army Air Corps, which became the Army Air Force, which became the U.S. Air Force. So he flew in the Pacific during World War II as a combat cargo pilot, and he flew mostly resupply missions all the way from the Southern Pacific up to Okinawa. In fact, his last mission was to deliver all the materials to Tokyo Bay, where the surrender ceremony was conducted on the USS Missouri by General MacArthur. But he was only a first lieutenant, so he didn't have enough rank to be able to stay and watch it. So he never had a chance to do that. But he did fly some of the POWs back from the islands there in Japan. So he had two older brothers, one of which served in the Pacific and as a Navy officer on a destroyer, and then another brother who served in the Army as the chief postal officer for one of the Army divisions in the Pacific. So my dad stayed in after World War II and continued on as a reserve officer and ended up retiring as a lieutenant colonel. So I always saw my dad head out once a month to his training programs, and then a week during the summertime he'd be serving and training. So that was always something that I was aware of. And when I had an opportunity to enlist in 1970, I enlisted in the Army and went through training at Fort Ord in Monterey County in California. Stayed there for advanced individual training in the infantry, and then did my non-commissioned officers school there, and then was assigned to serve in Vietnam as an infantry member, and was assigned to the 101st Airborne Division, which fought in the northern part of South Vietnam, just below the demilitarized zone. So I did a full combat tour and eventually was allowed to carry the M60 machine gun because it was probably the most effective small arms weapon in a infantry combat platoon. And even though they usually gave it to the biggest and the tallest and the strongest guys, sometimes those capabilities didn't transfer into their brains. So one thing I learned in my period of time in combat was knowing that I had the ability to keep my head squared away and be calm and effective even under the most trying conditions. So in firefights and things like that, being able to stay focused on the mission and deliver the necessary defense to the enemy was something I was able to carry on after I came back and reintegrated in society, worked on my college degree. But I always knew that I had that capability, no matter what the tough times would be, I could keep focused on getting the job done. And that gave me a lot of confidence. So I finished my degree and then embarked on a career in medical device management. So I did that for like 25 years, but I always maintained a connection with my veteran organizations. And in fact, I was able to take my father back when he was in his late 80s, early 90s, on an honor flight back to Washington, D.C. And that was quite amazing to be able to visit all the memorials back there, including his World War II memorial. Um, but I was just kind of shocked that there was no Honor Flight chapter in Los Angeles, Orange, or San Bernardino counties. Those three counties have a bigger population than the state of Arizona. So I thought that was rather deficient, considering how powerful that trip meant to those World War II and Korean War veterans. So I decided to form a chapter there. So I was one of the founding directors of that Honor Flight chapter. And then when I finally was able to relocate here to Prescott to make it my new home, I made sure the first thing I did was get involved in all the veteran service organizations here, American Legion, the VFW, and Vietnam Veterans of America chapter, and also the Disabled American Veterans. And then I also did some work over at the VA, volunteering over there with different veterans that were dealing with things like PTSD and some other issues, because I had such a broad experience in medical care and medical services and supplies. It was very helpful. So I've always maintained that connection. I formed a Veterans Advisory Council here about 4 or 5 years ago, where a group of community involved veterans have a chance to get together and meet with some of our state and federal representatives, whether they're congressmen or senators or whatever, so that they can speak directly to those representatives and let them know what the concerns are for veterans in our area. So that's been one of my most proud achievements.
Yeah, and it seems like it just keeps on growing. I've heard that we have one of the biggest veteran communities in all of the nation, and it doesn't really like match up to my mind, because obviously I had never been in that position before, but at the same time I know that we actually really do bring into focus the veteran community here. So is that the actual truth? Do we have like the largest?
Well, I think per capita, we arguably could be the highest percentage of veterans per capita of almost any city in the United States, excluding those cities that surround military bases.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a lot more military that are living on or off base. But when you look at an average community, we're somewhere between 14 and 18% of our whole population are veterans. That's a remarkably high number.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of veterans are attracted here when they visit, because they just get a lot of recognition and acknowledgement and appreciation. And once they find that, a lot of them become very attracted here, and we've got some real benefits in the state with anybody who's on a veteran pension doesn't have to pay state income tax. So it makes it financially, and I think veterans certainly like to associate with veterans. So a lot of our veteran service organization memberships are quite large. And it's a great place to be a veteran. You're sincerely appreciated and honored here.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, once again, coming into it's a federal holiday, yeah, federal holiday with this Friday. What are we expecting here locally in Prescott? I know that we've been talking about it, but what are we expecting on Friday?
Well, we're going to have 99 entries in our Veterans Day Parade, which makes us the second largest Veterans Day Parade in the state. Although we were hoping to bypass Phoenix, we came within about 4 or 5 entries of doing that. So next year we'll be number one. I'll guarantee you that.
That is so cool.
So we probably expect, 6, 8, 10,000 visitors to come up and watch and attend the parade, in addition to all of our local Yavapai County veterans and residents that'll be here. So it'll be a big deal.
Well, I'm so happy that I had this opportunity to come in and meet with you about your past and currently what you're doing here, and it really does show. You said a couple things, and when you were describing who you were as being confident and strong, and actually, calm underneath any kind of like adversaries and things that are coming at us. And I think that's actually really good for our community. And I really do appreciate you and all that you've done. I actually do respect you a lot, and I know that we don't know each other as much as we probably should, but at the same time, I think that what you're doing here and the way that you carry yourself is pretty amazing. I want to read a couple of things. Tammy said, "Oh, good morning. How you doing, Mayor? Feel good." And then Gma says, "Good morning, Prescott Times family, and feel good." And Lisa says, "Thank you for your services and your sacrifices." And then Gmas says, "Thank you for your services in Vietnam and now as our mayor in Prescott. Mayor Goode, it's an honor to hear a little of your life. My husband is a Desert Storm veteran and served in the USSS Missouri BB-63, which is amazing. And sorry, a Facebook user, don't know exactly who it is, but thank you for coming out and saying good morning to us. This is a pretty big deal because Veteran Days is coming this Friday. We would love for all of you guys to be a part of it. And if there is anything that any of the viewers out there could go ahead and be a part of, what would you ask them to do as far as like being in our community?
Well, if we're going to relate to veteran services or even our parade, I certainly would welcome them to attend and support all the veterans that will be in attendance, all the entries that will be part of the parade. I mean, it's just it's a remarkable situation. When I came back from Vietnam, there were certainly no parades. In fact, when I first arrived in Oakland Airport before heading home to Sacramento, I was met by a bunch of anti-war protesters. And I had literally been in combat maybe 2 weeks before. So it was kind of shocking to have that type of you couldn't call it a welcome, that's for sure. But that was at the time, the nation at large kind of pointed the finger at the veterans who served, rather than the political leaders who put us in that position. We served honorably, and our nation will always need warriors. Unfortunately, it seems like every generation has to have their own war, and we don't seem to learn about how to be able to maintain peace, but peace through strength, having a strong military and a capable military, and a military that's willing to defend our nation and our principles is our adversaries in the world are very aware of that. So without a strong military, we're going to be taken advantage of, and we're starting to see that happening on a global scale today. So appreciate your veterans, support your veterans, and make sure you honor them, because they're essentially needed to maintain the integrity of our nation.
That's a big deal. If you had one thing to go ahead and share with your community as far as one word, I mean, all that right there was very sentimental, and I know that you really do have a heart for this whole scenario. If you have one word to say to our community and whoever saw this video, what would it be?
Well, I just want to say how proud I am to be the mayor of Prescott and to be able to maintain this unique oasis of historical Western heritage, appreciation for veterans, and having a strong constitutional love for the country. It's just a phenomenally wonderful place. Everybody who visits here will usually say, "Well, if they have never been here before, never knew about it, they'll say, what a wonderful place." And I intend to make sure that it stays that way. This is just too wonderful of a place to allow it to be modified for other people's expectations. We have a lot of people come here and say, this is great, but I want to change it, or I want it to be like where I left. Well, if you liked where you left, maybe you'd still be there.
It's the truth.
So let's just value our city, and I hope the viewers will support me in continuing to make it the great place it's always been.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. I mean, I will never choose anywhere else. Born and raised here, I want to keep it that way because it's very, very beautiful.
Right.
It's kind of one of the funniest things I ever heard. Any person from the city says, "Man, I feel like I'm so happy." And then my reply is, probably because you're breathing oxygen. Man, I tell you what, this place is beautiful, man. Your services, I'm telling you, I was really happy that you agreed to go ahead and do this interview. It's all because Veteran Day is coming this Friday. We want to go ahead and honor all the veterans that are out there. We also want you guys to acknowledge, Mayor's, deals that he's went through in his life, but also acknowledge what his accomplishments have been since this far. I actually got a gift for you, and I totally forgot to bring it in. I was like thinking in my head, I was like, I forgot something, but I got you something. I wanted to present it, but we'll go ahead and take a picture of it later. But with that being said, my friend, I really do appreciate you. I really appreciate all the things that you've done. And thank you for giving me the opportunity this morning to sit in your awesome office. And I don't know if we haven't really did this picture, but this gift right here.
Yeah, this gift came from the mayor of Caborca, Mexico. We've had a sister city relationship with Caborca for many, many decades. And we hosted them when they came up here a few months back. And of course, I had the nice little plaque and everything for the mayor of Caborca. And then he brings this out of the back of the stage. And I was just speechless.
Yeah, no.
This is a hand-tooled Mexican saddle. And I accepted it on behalf of the city. It's way too valuable to be personally accepted. So I just bought a stand for it and put it in my office here. And I think it just connects me with all the great Western heritage. And I just love having it here.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you go because I know you got a fairly big day, and we want to let you guys know to keep on going back to theprescotttimes.com in order for you guys to go ahead and see all the cool things that are happening. And if you guys don't know where it's at, it's right here. theprescotttimes.com. We have a lot of press releases that are coming out, especially what's going on in our communities, Prescott Valley, Chino Valley. So with that being said, I'm out of here. And the way that I like to say this, it's like, peace, love, and happiness. Let it not be war. And remember, love always wins. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. And Eric will be here. I promise. I think. Let's see what happens. But peace out.
Thank you, San Martin.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
being
you.
Here.
Let's go. This is how I do it. Ooh.